And we're live.
Good day and welcome to a day on China outbound tourism. I'm Jan Larsen and I'm the CEO of BUZZ.travel. This event today is a co-production between Coatry and BUZZ.travel. Coatry, that is Professor Dr. Alt and his team. Coatry is responsible for the concept and for the content of this event. BUZZ is responsible for the logistics, the technology and the team behind. There are two reasons for the event of today. First of all, we want to celebrate that Wolfgang Alt is launching a new book on China outbound tourism. We will hear more about that today. And secondly, we would like to see today's event as a warm-up for a China trade show, which BUZZ and GITF will launch in September. GITF, that is Gaochang International Tourism Fair. That will be a trade show for 5 days, keynotes, virtual booths, and we have technologies to facilitate one-to-one meetings between sellers and buyers. Some of you may have seen our last trade show. The trade show in September, China Summit we call it, will be in the same format. However, we will have optimized a few things here and there. And as I said, it will be a joint production between GITF and BUZZ. A few words on BUZZ, if I may. BUZZ is a closed community, a social network for verified travel professionals. If I put it a bit simple and simplify a bit too much, it's a mix between LinkedIn and Facebook, but as I said, only for verified travel professionals. And to that community, we have added a few functionalities. Why do I emphasize closed community and why do I emphasize travel professionals? A few have asked, why do I need to upload a photo, a personal photos, and why do you guys need time to verify my profile? The answer is, BUZZ is a high quality network for verified professionals, for real travel professionals. And when you join and when you reach out to your colleagues, your peers on the platform, we want to make sure that you meet real people, no fake profiles, no dead profiles. You meet people, good people with the same intentions as you. We cannot guarantee that you'll have a good communication when you reach out, but the likelihood is much better if we have verified people and if you meet people with a picture that you know whom you're talking to. BUZZ is the place where travel professionals meet to socialize, promote their services, their products, seek and find, and get information. We have a lot of members who have said that we've given us feedback, have said that their business have picked up since they are active on BUZZ. And here the key word is active. BUZZ is an instrument, and an instrument does not do any good if it isn't used actively. So when you join BUZZ, please make sure you have a good informative profile, promote, post, reach out to other people, and then hopefully that will help your business as well. Besides the community side, we have a few platforms. We have a platform for fam trips. We have a platform for discounted travel industry trips. We have a so-called marketplace where you can post anything from jobs to the last free hotel rooms for next Christmas. These marketplaces are of course not as active as they could be in these Corona times. We hope it will come later. We will, going forward, make events like this on a regular basis. We will also make virtual trade shows as the one we did, as the one we are planning on China. And if anybody of you are sitting and having good ideas, reach out to us. Some events will be done on our own. Some events will be joint events with other people. We have invested in the technology, as I said. We have the team, so we are very open to discuss mutual events. We went to the market about a year ago. We did that after almost 2.5 years of developing our own software. And today we have about 5,000 members after a year. And it's not, you can't do that linear. The most members have come the last 6 months. We expect to multiply these 5,000 members by a factor of 8 to 12 in the next 18 months. One last remark, there is no connection to Google Analytics or anything. Your data in your join stays with BUZZ and stays with us safely. So these are the words for the people joining on Zoom and so forth, YouTube. We hope to see a lot of you on BUZZ the next days, the next weeks. Wolfgang, you are the man now.
Okay, so Jan, thank you very much for the introduction to BUZZ, and thank you very much for the cooperation and for all the hard work which has been done by you and your team in the last weeks. So I'm very happy that it seems all the panelists are here, and I will introduce them to you in a minute. So what I first want to do is to show you the program of the event quickly, and then we will have a short presentation on how the situation is from the way we are seeing it. And as Jan has been mentioning, of course, in the book we are celebrating today what is the content of that, in a few points of that. And then we will start the first panel. And I have to say that Dr. O'Heldy from the European Parliament is so kind also to join us, but so he has already told me that as he is a really busy man, that he will speak first, and then I think he has to go on to other activities. But of course, he is one of our heroes in Europe, putting forward tourism. So, and I'm very happy that he can do that. Okay, so then I will need to take over the screen, right?
You can share your screen.
So now you should see some slides. Is that working? Yes?
It's working, yes.
It's working. Okay, good. Then, so yes. So let me tell you quickly about the program for today. So after the introduction we just had, I will speak briefly about welcoming the new Chinese outbound travelers. And then we will have the first panel, which is looking more from the demand side. So what do the post-virus travelers from China look for now? What has changed in their demand? And for this panel, we will have Istvan from the European Parliament. And I'm very happy to have Xu Jing here. So I remember 5 years ago, we had a very nice webinar already together. And of course, also, I'm very happy to have Dean Kate Chon, who is the Dean of the most successful faculty for tourism and hotel management, and our partner in the online training program CTT we have developed together. We have Roger Chiu, also an old friend who for most of you will know in his former role working for C-Trip. Now he is working for Value Retail. And we have Matej Ritter, who is working for Budapest Airport. So, and we will have at the end, there will be a Q&A. So if you have questions, please use the chat function you will find at the bottom of your page to ask questions. So then we will have a presentation by Rebecca Bear, who is working for Planet. And so there are some new developments in the combination of payment systems with value-added tax refund, and she will give us an update on that before having the second panel, which will be looking from the supply side and the question how to prepare for the post-virus customers from China and how to use the new paradigm we are trying to develop for successful business. And for this, we have, I'm happy to say in the second panel, it's not only men, we have also some ladies here. So first we have David Cleary from Epic Irish Immigration Museum. We have Nicolette Todd from Budapest Airport. We have Rebecca from Planet, and Ghazi Haxia. I hope he has successfully joined by now. He is one of the biggest, and for China, probably the biggest tour operators in the Balkans. And we have Samantha Marsland from Manchester Airport Group, and Anders Edelman Christensen, also old friend of Kotri. He is the general manager of Albatros, has been living in China for many, many years. And again, we have a Q&A. And then at the end, so don't go away, we have a lucky draw, and we will give away 3 copies of our new ebook, Welcoming the New China's Outbound Tourist, Guest Relationships with Chinese Visitors in the 2020s. And at the end, of course, it's for the host, for Jan Larsen from BUZZ, to say the final words. So this is a program. I hope you have time to join. Let me say that this is also live streamed now on Facebook and YouTube. And if for some reason you can't follow the whole event, this of course will be also put on the YouTube channel, so you can also look at it later on. Even so, of course, I hope you can join and stay with us now. So brief introduction very quickly, about who's talking to you. So I've been working with China for many, many years. My first visit to China was actually 1978, when it looked quite different from today. And I've been a tour operator, and I've been, until a few months ago, a professor for international tourism management, and yeah, as you can see, working in a couple of other functions, including being a member of the UNWTO expert panel and being a fellow of the International Association of China Tourism Studies in Guangzhou, and some others. What is Kotri doing? Well, in a nutshell, Kotri is trying to help people outside of China, and companies and organizations and governments outside of China, to make Chinese travelers happy and to earn money in the process, and to develop the own country or the own company in a sustainable way in the process. That is probably enough. And as I just mentioned, so we have, I think, an important tool for this is an online training called China Tourism Training. We are offering together with the Hong Kong Polytechnic University School of Hotel and Tourism Management, which is organized in 5 different verticals, and so it is certainly something you should look at. And so looking at the situation as it is today. So first of all, the reasons why the Chinese have been traveling so much in the past have not changed. And all the surveys are saying that the Chinese are very eager to come back onto the international market once it becomes possible again. And domestically, we can see that actually in China, tourism is in full swing again. So you can see the picture. We had more than 100 million trips only in the first week of May, which was a holiday week. And for the Dragon Boat Festival now in June, we had within 3 days 80 million people traveling again. So China is probably the country in the world now with the highest number of domestic tourists. So just on one slide, some trends and how have they been influenced by the current situation. So the green ones are the ones which are continuing and will continue in the future, namely a further segmentation of the Chinese outbound tourism source market, more customized and self-organized tours. And in the interviews with all the panelists who are also in the book, I think everybody agreed that this is a trend which will go on. We see a movement from quantity, trying to put as much content into a trip as possible, to quality, to have deeper experiences and slow down a bit. We have the trend that more and more information is available, both from direct experience, but also, of course, from media and from advertisements and so on, from PR. And we see, and this again has been pushed forward by the lockdown, that the use of technology, the use of cashless payment, for instance, it has been increasing even more in China. What we saw in the last few years was that there was a development that many countries opened their doors wider for Chinese visitors, that they didn't need a visa at all, or they could get a visa on arrival or an e-visa and so on. And more air connections were opened up. When we will talk about this, certainly we have airports representatives on our panels. And this, of course, it has been going backward now, and that will be maybe something we can talk about, how long you think it will take before we are back to the situation we were at the end of 2019. And the last point, well, I can tell you, when we made this plan, when to publish the book, when to have the seminar, we hoped, that was maybe 3 months ago, we hoped that by the beginning of August, we are more or less back in a situation where the Chinese outbound tourists have already started to travel again. But well, as we all know, the virus is not going away as fast as we all have hoped for. And so it seems now that actually it will be a vaccine and a treatment we have to wait for, because people get really in big numbers confident to travel. But again, this is something we will have to discuss. So what we're saying is that there is a need for a new paradigm, because we had this before the virus already, a lot of problems with over-tourism, climate change, and so on. So and I think in all the discussions in the last months, people have been agreeing, yes, things have to change for global tourism. And as 1 out of 8 international travelers is a Chinese, that has to include Chinese tourists as well. And so looking beyond the period where hygiene and sanitation is playing an important role, how can we change this, and how also can we change our attitudes towards the new interests, especially of Chinese tourists, on family, nature, more authentic experiences, and a higher demand for trust and satisfaction. And also something which is often forgotten, it's not only the customers who have to be happy and the company who have to have enough money in the till. You also need to have happy staff, and you need happy locals, and we all know that in the past this has not always been the case. So we all have been a bit optimistic, and on the left-hand side, so WTO published this graph half a year ago saying we are the most resilient economic sector. Turned out this is not really the case, and in terms of change management, to be prepared for things like that, well, we find now that we had to improvise a lot. And you see now the latest forecast from WTO from June is speaking quite a different language than what was said just half a year before. And some people have been saying this has been a black swan event, so something you can't predict. But actually, probably it is better to prepare to describe it as a gray rhino, which is another term which has been used in the literature. So as an economic risk that is there, and well, we had a lot of warnings. We had the swine flu, we had Ebola, and so on. So, and it was not the question, will we ever have a pandemic, but just the question, when will it happen? But it seems that there was not enough preparation for that. And also, it's not only the virus, of course, it is also that we can see that the number of trips have increased 5 times in the last 40 years. But the way tourism is organized has not changed that much. And so the increasing force of tourism for good, create jobs, but also for bad, to really be destructive, has not been really met with enough new policies. And I'm sure Istra will talk about this. That also for instance, in Europe, we are still lacking a clear tourism policy. The Chinese have often been named as a culprit, so that because if they travel in the group, they stick out, so that they are the culprits for over tourism. And also from our surveys, we always found that Chinese travelers are thinking, oh, we are walking wallets, so they like us when they come and pay money, but they don't really like us as persons, and we feel a bit second level treated. And so therefore, the first step is very simply that if we welcome the Chinese tourists by trying harder to understand them and not saying all Chinese are the same, and by accepting that they are diverse and that they are different people. Of course, when they are traveling, they will be reminded of their Chinese-ness more than they are inside China, but still they are obviously different people, and nobody would think that I'm a German, yes, but we have an intern working here. She is a 25-year-old German. We are not the same people. We are not having the same demands when we go traveling. So for Chinese, surprise, surprise, it is exactly the same. So, and yes, for the short and medium range, we have to concentrate on sanitation, on hygiene, on washing our hands, on wearing masks, and all that. But I think we have to look forward, and we have to find a way how to organize a win-win-win-win situation, and that means a better development for guests, for hosts, for staff, companies, and of course also for, at the end, for the planet. And one of the approaches I think we can clearly see as a way forward is to have closer guest relations, and to move away from spending all the money on social media marketing and moving from KOLs, key opinion leaders, towards KOCs, key opinion customers. And this, I think, is one element we have to look for. So this is just a quick example. The company Dragon Trail, social media marketing company, publish every week how have the NTOs and the DMOs and airlines and so on been working on their Weibo and their Wechat accounts. And well, I will not go into detail, but what you can see is that a lot of money is spent on this very nicely done posts, but if you reach not even 3,000 people in a country like China, this is simply not enough. And it is simply, if you look at something like Melbourne, has 1 million followers on Weibo, but only 250 people look at 7 posts. So that cannot be the best way to spend your money. And if you analyze it deeper, you can see those companies or DMOs who are successful are often successful because they have a giveaway, they have a lucky draw, or they give away some stuff. So this is bringing more people, but not necessarily more visitors to your country. And so in Wechat, it's not really different. So you can see that out of 84 DMOs which have been active and which have been surveyed, just one got more than 6,000 views. So what we think is there is adding KPIs is needed. And so from the idea, we want to have more visitors going to say first, actually, it's not the number of arrivals, it's the number of overnights. It's also not only overnights, it's the number of how much is spent per trip and what is your margin. But this is not enough. This is the green level. So to say, how can we have more satisfied Chinese visitors? And by having better adapted products so that they recommend you to their friends. How can we have also more satisfied staff members so that they are more friendly and more productive and don't see Chinese as guests or customers, which are difficult. And also, as we have seen, you need to keep the locals in the picture, otherwise they will start to be anti-tourist. We all know Barcelona and Venice and all these pictures. So this is the new tourism paradigm triangle we came up with, where you have at the bottom the destinations and the services. So the base in Mongolia, you can't offer beach tourism, and on the Maldives, you can't offer mountain climbing. That is not to be changed. So there is a physical and the cultural base you can build on, but then you can see there are two ways up the market. One is on the left-hand side, have a very deep knowledge about your source market, and based on this, do a product adaptation for different groups of different customers. And on the right-hand side, use and build up your IT or ICT knowledge and use all the nice new tools we have for digitalization so that you can really also use the data you have about customers to offer them what they actually want. And build on this, the 3 steps of trust so that Chinese tourists can really feel welcome and feel safe, both in the terms of sanitation, but also in the terms of being treated with respect. To the point of embeddedness of feeling, and there's a term of kinship economy, so that you feel part of it and then maybe also feel more responsible. So if you feel I have connections to the people here in, I don't know, in the Maldives, then you're less likely to break off a coral and bring it home as a souvenir. If you think, okay, these people are somehow, I belong to them. They have included me in their social structures. And on the top of this, have the KPI of satisfaction with, you can measure this with sentiment measurement and so on, so that you have people satisfied. And of course, at the final goal, we have personalization, offering exactly what the customer wants to each specific customer. So this is in a nutshell what we think how we should move forward, and especially for the Chinese market, because the problems have been bigger than in other markets, and it is the biggest source market and probably will be, or certainly will be, the biggest source market in the world again. I just have been told that there have been a lot of questions if these slides will be available afterwards, and the answer is, of course, yes. So one, the whole thing today will be recorded, so you will have a video, but of course also if you want to have a set of the slides, just inform us, and we are happy to share this with you. So some practical part, and then I will finish. So the post-virus Chinese outbound travelers, according to a lot of surveys done by many companies in China, are more keen than before on family travel, on nature experiences instead of shopping, on traveling to not so overcrowded places, to get in more contact with the locals, and short-term, of course, hygiene and sanitation. So they want to trust the hosts, so who need to show their engagement with the market, their sympathy for the visitors just by being interested in them as a person. So Zurab, the current SG from UWO, has said trust is a currency of the new normal. So trust, I think, will be a word we will use a lot in the coming months and years. And embeddedness as the idea that based on the work of some Hungarian economist, Mr. Polanyi. So the post-virus threat outbound traveler wants to feel embedded in the local destination, the local society, in the hotel, so that he is treated as somebody who is really welcomed. And you can do this, for instance, by simply staying in contact with that. So in our work, very often we found that people working with Chinese customers, they don't know where in China they're coming from. They don't know certainly their names or their email addresses, so they cannot stay in touch with them. They cannot give them specific offers. So that is simply what if you do that. And to finish, satisfaction by giving Chinese what they're interested in, and maybe extending what is your service and rethinking what is your service. Is a beach only for recreation, or can you offer this, for instance, for families with kids, that there can be some education about the beach as an ecosystem, or can you have a hotel as a place where you have a lot of new technologies and things to try out? Certainly will be something appreciated by Chinese visitors. And so final point, perceiving your customers as people, as Mr. Wang, as Mrs. Li, not just as Chinese or even worse, Asians. So this is a brief overview. So you can see this book is published as an ebook, and we have been working very hard on keeping the deadline as short as possible. So this is everything which happened basically until now has been included in the book, and I hope that for many of you this will be a companion on the way to have a better understanding and a more successful business with the Chinese market. And let me also mention that we have a special subscription price in the coming days as well. So that's all from me. And so now I think, Marcus, you have to take back the screen.
You can easily stop sharing.
Yes, here we are. And so now I think we move to Istvan, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so we said because you have some other appointments, so that we you asked that you can give your statement first, and then if you have time to stay, of course, happy to have you stay. But so maybe my first question for all the panelists, maybe you can also give a brief introduction about yourself. But my question is that in the interview we have in the book, you said that I'm convinced that tourism is part of the new Green Deal. So sustainable, smart strategy is needed in our beloved tourism. Can you explain a bit what you mean by smart strategy from your point of view?
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody, dear colleagues. Daja Hao in the Chinese Mandarin. I would like to send you my greetings from Hungary. And first of all, I would like to thank to Wolfgang because he invited me to be here with you. And you have to know that we have a long cooperation with each other. And of course, I will order your book if it's if it's a good chance to make advertisement for it. So I will answer you, but of course I have a longer speech about the situation in Europe. I don't need 1 hour, I need only 10 minutes, but maybe it's important to know
Yes.
what and how we are thinking about the tourist policy in the European institutions. The main question of today's seminar is crucial, how to restart the outbounding tourism from the third countries, especially from China. And of course, we have the experts here with us today. We all know the shocking figures. We have all realized the economic loss caused by the COVID-19. And of course, we have to think about the 27 million jobs in the European Union, which are related to the tourism industry. And millions of jobs are in danger now in these months. And we have to think about that, what will happen with us in not only in the European Union, but all over the world in the tourism industry, if we will have more and more crises. I'm vice chair of the TRAN committee, which is the Transportation and the Tourist Committee of the European Parliament. And at the same time, I'm a volunteer special ambassador of the UNWTO to the EU institutions. Most probably you remember the EU-China Tourism Year, which was my initiation in the European Parliament. And the European Commission implemented that annual program, giving much awareness to Chinese outbound tourism. And I'm also a member of the European Parliament China delegation. So I have deep understanding on the EU-China economical and political cooperation. Overall, we founded the OBOR committee, which is the One Belt, One Road EU-China tourism, cultural and education committee to facilitate the relations between EU and China. Last month, and now I will start to tell you some information about the European institutions. Last month, the European Parliament supported and voted in favor for the agreement between EU-China civil aviation safety. The negotiations has happened during the past 4 years, and we worked on hard to have it supported by the MEPs. I think it is an important step concerning the future of tourism and especially for the outbound tourism. And let me tell you some of the latest results from Brussels. Immediately after the first week of the crisis, we defined 3 main fields where immediate actions should have been taken. At first, guarantee immediate access to liquidity and support businesses and consumers in the challenging initial phase. As I told several times, we must put tourism on ventilation machine. Secondly, lay out concrete plans for the recovery plan, recovery period. And third, devise a long-term future strategy that goes beyond the COVID-19 crisis, setting the foundations for a new, smart, modern, and sustainable EU tourism and travel sector. And I was listening your speech, and you mentioned several good examples how we can change our thinking about the tourist business to be smarter, to use all the European destinations, to use modern technology, and think about the Green Deal, which is, I hope, after the crisis, will be again the most important project of the European Union. As a father of 6 kids, I had to think about them future. And they would like to also make, for example, business in the tourism. So they need good tourism, but they also need our globes, and they need good life. So we have to continue the Green Deal with a smart tourism strategy. You're probably aware of the complexity of the decision-making process in Brussels, political hub, where we have the three main political institutions. I learned again a lot in Brussels the last half a year, how difficult to make coordination between these institutions. But we have to make this practice, and we have to do it again and again, because the European Union and, for example, the tourism industry need very quick decisions. We don't have 3, 4, 5 years to change if we need some changes. Even we have a representation of tourism in the institutions. The main role of the Commission was to coordinate among the member states on border control and restrictions, as tourism is a national competence. As a tourism advocate, I'm fighting during the last 6 years to have a common European tourism policy. The main problem, which stays in many cases concerning the opening of borders in the possible second wave of COVID-19, that national reflections and old mechanisms arrive first. The governments have realized the crisis as a health issue only, which has followed by economic difficulties. While many colleagues in the European Parliament and even the European Commission wanted to have a coordinated approach and solutions on the European level from the beginning, we need common guidelines and protocols at least. There were several decisions where the EU institutions worked together from the first moment, like concerning the airport slot regulation, where within 10 days we have changed the existing legislation to avoid the fights of empty planes. Concerning the consumer rights and the questions of travel vouchers, we acted together. And concerning the financial aids and different programs for the immediate help, the Commission made extraordinary decisions to revise the budgetary sources and give several possibilities for member states' governments to use their EU money for the crisis management through an easier procedure, for example, to support the tourism SMEs and companies. There were many countries who used the state aids mechanism for national aviation companies. Other countries set up travel guarantee fund, like Denmark. Several member states understood the SMEs difficulties, like Greece or Croatia. Portugal has invented much in safe travel with common guidelines. There are more and more best practices that we could follow and implement. And parallel with all of this, the Commission, for example, Commissioner Breton or Commissioner Valean, gave inspirative speeches talking about a new Marshall Plan for the tourism. Till now, many programs and strategical ideas were introduced. The political groups welcomed them all on behalf of the European Parliament, but the main message has disappeared somewhere in the air. This message is to place tourism on the European community level, like the energy policy in the past years or health policy during these months, to create a common European policy for tourism based on a vision and a comprehensive strategy and with concrete money from the EU budget. I completely do not understand why the Commission, the Council haven't recognized that in several policies we need to have to define common European policies. In one of the Commission papers, the Commission services acknowledge the importance of tourism, and comparing to other sectors, the result has shown the biggest investment is needed for this sector to be taken in the coming years. That is why my group, the SD group, wrote its own policy paper and with other political groups discussed and agreed on a joint parliamentary resolution, which is a historical step to support European tourism, because we have never had a so strong and important resolution to support European tourism from the parliament. So this is the political momentum when we must act together for getting a common tourism policy. And what is the situation now? The EU institutions understood to save the summer season at least. So finally and gradually, the majority of the member states have opened their countries. But the COVID second phase is there in many places again. Officially, EU opened their external borders to third countries, but led the final decision and responsibility towards the member states' governments. Being a global industry, measures are most effective when the needs and the specificities of the member states are taken into consideration and transferred into a coordinated strategy at EU level. Therefore, we need to synchronize action at European level and support member states in their efforts to stabilize a sector which plays a profound role in the European economy. That's why, for example, we need common strategy to make a good deal with China, not only to invite Chinese tourists to Europe, but also to introduce the beautiful China for the Europeans, because we need one win-win good cooperation with China if we would like to support the tourism business. European citizens need to trust that it is safe to resume travel and that their rights will be protected. After all, the tourism and travel industry is the industry of peace, greatly contributing and promoting dialogue and mutual understanding among the citizens of member states, as the UNWTO, for example, Zura Prolikashvili, told it several times the last months. Every crisis is an opportunity. It is our common responsibility to seize the opportunity and transform the currently given challenges and risk into a chance for a new beginning by putting the entire tourist sector its rightful place among the different European policy areas. So, therefore, it is essential to put tourism back on track in Europe as well as on global level. That's why I'm here together with you, and thank you so much again the invitation. And as Wolfgang, you told, I have to leave to the Chinese embassy in Budapest. I will have a meeting with the ambassador, and I couldn't change it, so I have to be there to speak about the European-Chinese, Hungarian-Chinese relations. But I will listening you, but I will not share my my video on my way when I will drive. So thank you so much. Have a nice summertime, and let's support the European and the Chinese tourists together.
Yes, now we can hear you. So, sorry. So, yeah, thank you very much. Best regards to the ambassador, and thank you very much, Istvan. I think this was a very nice overview about what has to be done, and also that I think many people agree that this is overdue. So this is something which needs to be done, or should have been done even earlier. But well, yes, you are certainly one of those people pushing this, and so that is, yes, opportunity coming out of a crisis. We heard this many times, but there might be some truth in it, actually. Yes. So okay, thank you very much for that. So let's start the regular panel discussion, and maybe I will start with Xujing first. And let's, I think, jump right into the discussion. Xujing, you wrote in the answers to the interview less is more. This is a principle we should follow again to a bigger degree. Some people have been saying that means we have to increase prices. So there was an article in The Guardian saying tourism is a luxury and people who want to be tourists, they have to pay for it. And if they can't afford it, bad luck for them. So this is probably not what you mean by less is more. So maybe you can give us a short introduction of yourself and then maybe can elaborate on this a bit.
Thank you very much, Wolfgang. Let me start by, first of all, extend a word of thanks to you, Dr. Art, as well as to our friends from BUZZ.travel, and especially to Jan, for inviting me as a guest speaker in here, as a panelist in here. And congratulations, Wolfgang, because I think this is extremely important, and your seminar and the launch of your ebook is very much timely, in a sense that we reflect ourselves on the Chinese market, but more importantly, we look forward to the futures, not only to the next 12 months, but into the next decade. So once again, hearty congratulations to you. I have sifted through your ebook, and I certainly echo the sentiment expressed by my friend Istvan, that the book is very rich in content. And even me being a Chinese, I think I need to go back to the details of the book and update my knowledge as far as the content of the Chinese outbound market is concerned. But I cannot only extend a word of thanks here to you, but also to our friends and the team in the BUZZ.travel, whereby I also congratulate your initiative of creating such a nice network of professional chit-chatting, and that is very important nowadays. Yes, it is flooded with a lot of webinars and all these, but the solid network of this kind is what we need at this time. And also good to see my old friend Dean K. Chung. A long time no see. I think we're all in the same situation whereby no one is traveling. So I send my warm greetings to all of you from the sunny Madrid. Let's hope that physically we will be able to meet each other one day as soon as possible. Now, before Wolfgang, I address the issue of less is more. Perhaps I can also share a few points, but I'm fully aware of the time constraint. Number one, when we look at the Chinese market now, like we look at all markets of source countries, the overall situation has to be looked with bearing in mind the hygiene and the health concern factor. No one can avoid that. And the overall tourism situation has to be linked with the situation of the health issue. It is not very stable. We would like to be more stable, but it seems that one step forward, certain countries improve, but 2 steps backward, other countries get even worse. So whatever matters that we discuss as we speak, this is the overwhelming factor that will impact and will continue to impact our discussions in planning terms, in recovery terms. And this is not only to the Chinese market, and destinations around the world may be a little bit too over optimistic when it comes to the restart, to push the button for the new normal. So I would like to share this particular point with you. Now, you mentioned about less is more. This, indeed, I would like to look at it from a broader perspective, that tourism after the COVID-19 will no longer be the same. like many other economic and social sectors of this planet Earth. Whether we like it or not, pandemic of this nature doesn't happen overnight. It is the mankind that has done something wrong that has caused what is happening right now. When we look at the tourism side of the story, yes, it has been a good story and a successful story to tell. Yes, it is extremely high growth, but to what extent that we can continue like this, whether this whole concept of mass tourism can really sustain the next decade. This is where I actually shared my opinion, as many others also indicated, that we need to look at the social and the humanistic side of the tourism sector, rather than sheerly looking at the maximization of benefits, sheerly looking at the economic side of the tourism development. This is where I shared my opinion on the concept of less is more, because only when you have the due respect for the communities, for the host, and that growth will be sustainable. And it is with that context that I think the line of change may be in the direction of more favoring nature, more favoring community-based tourism, and certainly the attainment of SDG through our force for good tourism sector will be more tabled, because we gradually realizing that it is only when it is the four wing situations that all come together rather than separate that we will sustain this sector. Back to you, Wolfgang.
Okay, thank you. Yes, certainly. There is, I think, behind this health and sanitation issue, as you said, there is a deeper issue of being doing things in a meaningful way, and that this development of mass tourism and of really feeling that you're not a person but just a number. So you're a room 503, not even the guy in 503, but you're just 503. That this has been going on too long, and that this idea, I want you to guarantee me that I'm safe, also is not only about I'm not catching the virus, but also more you take note of me and of my needs. So thank you very much for that. So moving on to Hong Kong. Okay, thank you so much for being with us. And well, you're famously the dean of SACM, but you're also running a hotel. So you have the very wonderful Icon Hotel. So you also have been certainly heavily bounced around by the situation as it is in Hong Kong already now for some time. So in the interview, you said the Chinese will go for new and novel destinations that are less politically sensitive and which were not on their list before. So can you tell us a bit about first, yes, yourself and the situation you're in now, and also that the background for this forecast that the Chinese will look for novel destinations?
Okay, thank you very much, Wolfgang. Good afternoon and good morning to those in Europe. Wolfgang, thank you for inviting me to join this panel.
Pleasure.
Congratulations on this successful forum. I understand there are 2,200 participants signed up, but now there are 149 people attending. So perhaps the rest of them are on YouTube, or are they on other medium, perhaps? or they are on standby to get in to you. Anyway, so it's nice that you have a successful forum. And when I was invited to participate, I thought I understood exactly what this online webinar is about. Then I began to look more closely. I think my comments perhaps is not necessarily directly about Chinese tourists to Europe. It can be quite general, but of course applicable to Europe. As my friend Su Jing mentioned earlier, I think the safety and hygiene is a huge issue, becoming a bigger and bigger issue. I'll tell you this. 17 years ago, we went through the SARS. So based upon experience, because Hong Kong was so terribly battered by SARS 17 years ago, when this thing called COVID-19 came in January or February, I was very confidently saying that, oh, don't worry. By May, I can tell you, everything will be over. At the latest June, don't worry. But I was wrong. Why? Because COVID-19 is not SARS. It's much worse than SARS. Secondly, it is a global pandemic. It's not anything regional. So we have gone through this process of guessing and then expecting and then hoping, planning, and then realize that we cannot plan anything because whatever we predict, whatever we plan doesn't work. So in the case of Hong Kong, it's even worse because, as you know, 2019 was a very difficult year because of series of social unrest in Hong Kong. And then after that, the COVID-19. So we have been really battered by all the series of incidents. Now from this, I have organized my thought in some ways. First of all, yes, when we are over with this, in the process of overcoming, definitely, I think tourists today, not only just Chinese, but any tourist, will become more conscious of safety and hygiene. I think that's foremost important. But what does that mean? And we have to find a way to translate that into some tangible ways of communicating with tourists. As Wolfgang mentioned, we operate our own hotel. I'm sitting actually in front of the hotel icon behind me. This is a hotel our school is operating, 260 room hotel called Hotel Icon. This is fully owned and operated by university for teaching and research purpose. When we came with this idea, many people thought that, Professor, you are good, I know you are good in research and teaching, but you are very innocent. It's not that easy to run a business, make money out of this. But all these industry friends who are pessimistic about this idea, they found out that they were wrong because this hotel has been very successful since opening. And according to TripAdvisor, it's ranked among top 3 hotels in Hong Kong, always. I'll tell you, it's not easy to be ranked among top 3 in Hong Kong because Hong Kong is mecca of any hotel brands you can think about. The reason why the hotel has been successful is because of innovation we brought. So even for hygiene and safety, imagine now, in every touch point in the process of traveling to a destination, at the port of entry, and all kinds of activities at destinations, today's travelers are more conscious about hygiene and safety. So as an operator, you have to think about how we can identify those touch points and then tangibilize and assure the customers that you are safe. Again, going down to the very simple example in hotel industry. When you are staying in a hotel, there are many touch points you are going through, even in the guest room. Imagine there are many things of concern, the hygiene concern, starting from TV remote control or telephone set in the room, everything. We identified one more touch point, that is, in the back of the door, there is something called peephole. So if guests are using the peephole, they have to lean toward that door to put their forehead to the door. Then you think about it. Not many hotels are even thinking about it. So when we are cleaning and disinfecting the guest room, we go through these touch points and disinfect, not just cleaning, disinfect everything. And then after the housekeeping staff has completed disinfecting, cleaning, at the door, we put a paper seal. The guest who is checking in has to break that seal to enter the room. So this is a way of assuring that this room is clean. You are assured. So this is an example of how you can think about operating and tangibilizing hygiene and safety. I think that's an example. So I think industry will have to think about this. That's number one. Second is digital transformation. You know, our industry has gone through a lot of digital transformation, but definitely because of COVID-19 is expediting. Yeah, that has implications even in education. We are revamping our curriculum. Why? Because our graduates are all successful in hotel business or travel business when they graduate. But if they do not understand digital technology, they will wind up working for people who understand information technology. So our graduates have to understand. So take an example of marketing. We have a course called Hospitality and Tourism Marketing, traditional just teaching what is hospitality and tourism, how you sell, how to market, how to package. Now we change the course to something called Hospitality and Tourism Marketing in Digital Age. So it's heavy emphasis on digital. I think so that leads to smart tourism. Now, last 30 years of industry was highlighted by what we call high tech and high touch. I'll tell you, because of COVID-19, it will be high tech, low touch. Customers do not want to have high touch, just want to have, I want to get into my room, I want to get on my flight, fly safely. I don't want to see a flight attendant coming every 10 minutes asking what I'm doing. I just want to left alone and then fly safely and arrive at destination. So high tech, low touch. So I think that's digital transformation and smart tourism. Third, I think now every destination has no option but only focusing on staycation. Even in Hong Kong, there's now something called domestic tourism. I'm not kidding. Hong Kong is a city, a small city, but we have now promoting domestic tourism in Hong Kong. In fact, last 2 months, I have seen so much of Hong Kong. I have seen more Hong Kong than last 20 years since I moved to Hong Kong. Now, the thing is that many destinations are doing this staycation out of desperation. But in my view, you have to think about how you can link this staycation with international tourism for long term. For example, for Chinese inbound tourists. Here's a good example. In 2004 in Thailand, the Thailand tourism was badly affected by tsunami. 2003, there was SARS. 2004, there was a tsunami. Tourism was non-existent in Thailand. So Tourism Authority of Thailand launched a campaign called Unseen Thailand, unseen. That's, you have not seen Thailand. So they were trying to promote domestic tourism, especially for foreigners living in Thailand, expatriates. As a result of this Unseen Thailand campaign, after 2004, all these unknown destinations in Thailand became known to international tourists. Prior to that event, Thailand was known only for Bangkok, Phuket, Pattaya, and Chiang Mai. But as a result of this Unseen Thailand campaign, the entire Thailand, such places like Koh Samui or Chiang Rai or Isan, Khon Kaen became known. So you have to think about how you can link this staycation to the international tourism market. That's last. I also want to make one point about, especially with Asian tourists. now I think among the fears, in my view, of not only just Chinese but Asians in general, in traveling to anywhere, especially to Europe or Americas, is there's I think it's well publicized. There is a fear of terrorism against tourists. I mean, there are in the Hong Kong media often there is a report of how the Asian tourists have been violated because somehow there is an association with COVID-19 and then discrimination. I think there's a real fear. So I think educating the local communities, that is important. And also you have to be always sensitive. When I travel, oftentimes, I don't know how often I'm approached by someone saying, ni hao, and then trying to explain things in Chinese. And sometimes I have to very patiently wait and say that, excuse me, actually, I don't speak Chinese. I'm not a Chinese. But they are trying hard. So I think assuming that every Asian is Chinese and trying to treat as Chinese, that's wrong to begin with. And I think being a little bit more sensitive, that has to be education, right? And then also it has with education in the communities. I don't know how often when I travel, I was ridiculed, not by kids, but some adults in front of their own kids. So I don't know what these kids will learn from parents. So I think these are things that, I mean, destinations, we have to really seriously think about using this opportunity to educate the community. So for the benefit of long-term tourism. These are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think these are all very valid points, and of course, this is also what we tried to put into this point of embeddedness, that you have to bring the locals to see what are the advantages of having the tourists, and of course also to distinguish that not all Asians are Chinese, of course. So I would like to pick up one of the points. Okay, John has said, talking to Roger in Shanghai. So I have seen hotels, staying with hotels, saying, don't worry, the pen we give you to fill out the paper form for registration is sanitized. Whereas on the other hand, you have hotels where they say, we bring your own device, and in the room there is no remote control anymore for the TV, because you have an app. You can operate the TV from your own smartphone. You don't have to touch anything other than your own smartphone. So I think that you can see there is quite a wide range of how much you can bring technology into the picture. So Roger, you said in the interview, we should not be afraid of technology. And I know that you have been saying similar things before in other panels we shared and other presentations. I listened to you. So how do you see this from a Chinese travelers' point of view? So how much push will there be from their side to say, hey, I don't want to fill out a paper form for registration. This is not 2013. Are you kidding me? So how much will there be a push, and of course helped by, as both Xi Jinping and Keton have been saying, that this sanitation thing will have a bigger impact. Don't forget to unmute, yeah.
Okay, thank you first of all, Wolfgang, for inviting me to this panel. It's been actually, I think, more than 10 months or even 1 year that I haven't been participating in any panels as before. So I haven't been even traveled since end of last year. So that's the real world. That's the new world today. So as you can see that in terms of the technology parts, we are using technology now to connect again with each other. So we're embracing the technology But for the Chinese tourists, even before the COVID-19 situation, the Chinese people rely a lot on the technology parts, on their applications, on mobiles, on the website bookings, on OTAs. This kind of technology is actually already very familiar for the Chinese tourists. It's just in the post-virus world, for the Chinese people, they want to understand how the Western destinations is changing with the technology, because before, when they travel to any European destinations, it's very complicated. They have to download their tickets, they have to print it, they have to take the paper tickets to any attractions that is not used with the applications. So it's another word in some way for the Chinese tourists. But in post-virus situation, people are more conscious about this kind of technology using in different destinations. Just give an example, that's how that's our shopping BUZZ Village shopping collections is using now today. So we are an outdoor shopping destination. We have 11 shopping villages, 9 in Europe and 2 in China. So when the 2 China villages reopens after the Chinese government allowed, so we take a very strict protocols, of course, the shopping protocols for our tourists, because the Chinese people, they're very care about the health and safety precautions. So we take, of course, all the temperatures scanned for our visitors, and we also have hand sanitizers, hand washings, etc. These are all the protocols that we are applying for all the villages. But more, we use technology as well in our European villages. Before there are long queue in front of, for example, a Gucci shop, a Burberry shops. People, they are getting very close to each other. But today, because of the shopping protocols, we have to keep social distance from each other, from other guests. So we develop, in our application, we develop a queuing system, which means you can make a reservation for avoiding a queue in front of any stores you want to visit. You can just visit there at the time you make the reservation. This is very, very simple step for any companies, I think, to do that. But this is a real technology function or solutions that helps people in the post-virus situation to keep social distance and to have a better experience. Actually, we are now having a better experience than before, because before you have to queue among a lot of people, but today you know when to go, when to visit the shops. And even that, for that, before we use a lot of paper maps for our clients, so they just take out the papers. It's waste, of course, it's not environment friendly. But today we use applications, we use interactive maps to guide our tourists to say, okay, now you're in Gucci shops. If you want to go to Burberry, you can just check it on our interactive maps. And people have also a very good experience using technology. You don't even need to talk to any staff in the villages to understand where you are. So it also keep a low, touch points to other people. So everything using technology today in our shopping villages help us becoming a very good example as outdoor with safety precautions and for not only Chinese tourists, but even for the European tourists today. So we can see the results already in China villages after reopening. We see a very good results even before the virus situation. So people, they are enjoying our shopping villages using these technologies. And I think technology is something that we cannot just avoid. Before, you know, China, I worked before in C-Trip as an OTA. It's a technology company. I always convince my partners and suppliers in Europe, in European countries, to say, okay, you need to use applications, you need to use social media, so you need to communicate with Chinese people using those digital platforms and solutions. Somehow, because they're quite, you know, in a traditional way in communicating, so they are reluctant to change. But I think it's a very good opportunity now, after the virus situation, for all of us to rethink about technology, using the technology solutions, how it can help us to improve the customer's experience and how they feel about the safety and health precautions using technology solutions.
Okay, thank you very much. I think thinking of it, as you just said, maybe now people are more open to move forward with this, because this technology has been around for a long time. So museums or art galleries, if there's a popular exhibition, they sell timed entrance tickets already since 10 years or so. And this bring your own device thing I mentioned before has been around also for 6-7 years already. So it's very interesting what you're saying, that people have been reluctant to do this. Even I can imagine that you even have a higher turnover if people don't waste time on standing in the queues, so they will be able to shop more. It's even profitable to do that. So yeah, what kept people from doing that?
Yeah, you know, before entering to any attractions today, even some attractions, they're using facial recognition solutions. So people even don't need to take out their mobile phone. They just enter with their face. You don't. Okay, so this is something that happening in China's market. So we hope that in the coming future, the European destinations, the companies, the suppliers, or the tourism sectors, or not only tourism sectors, they are embracing the technology, and hope that the markets will reply to this kind of new things in a positive.
Okay, thank you very much. So Xu Jing, I'm aware that you also have to have another important meeting. You have to be a teacher, I think. So if you have to leave, so we're sorry to lose you, but of course, go ahead.
I'm okay. I will stay.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so finally, let's go to Budapest again. So we started with Budapest and we entered Budapest this panel. So Mate, so you said in the interview we will have to prepare for the new preferences of the market. So as an airport, well, you're rather indirectly serving the customers in many ways. So what does it mean from your, or how have you been doing this from your position as an airport in saying, okay, we prepare for the new preferences of our customers?
Yes, thank you, Wolfgang, and it's a pleasure to be here. And it was a pleasure to give inputs to your ebook, which is a great one. Congratulations to it. It was nice to listen to other panelists. And yeah, it's important to clarify the role of an airport in the ecosystem we are talking about. So I'm a member of the airline development team, and actually there's a commercial development focus of an airport, at least at Budapest Airport. Why it's important? Because many times the demand does not see the supply, or vice versa. So we, with our data tools, we have qualitative and quantitative data. We act as a link between supply and demand. Without doubt, Hungary is not the largest aviation market in Europe. So airline decision makers, they do not have the time, energy, or the manpower within their team to get down to the nitty-gritty, to really understand the market and market dynamics and to discover the latent market opportunity. So this is the moment when the airline development team and myself come to the picture, and we try to introduce the market opportunity. And this is what we have been doing since 2015 in China with our stakeholders in the ecosystem. As I mentioned, we have qualitative and quantitative data, and as I highlighted in the book, an airport should lead a discussion based on facts. We should be an advocate that there is demand. There are benchmarks to be used, and if those benchmarks worked, then for Budapest, there's also a shot in China to welcome non-stop air services. And just to give you some numbers, we are really into number crunching, but I do not want to tell a lot of numbers. But in 2014, we had around 80,000 aggregate air passengers on a bilateral basis. And last year we had 220,000. So we had almost 25% of compound average growth rate since 2015, which is truly outstanding. We are an airport in the Schengen area, so the majority of our traffic comes from Schengen air traffic. But when I look at third country air traffic volumes, we realized that China is a big opportunity. But it's not enough to be aware that there's an opportunity. You have to communicate the opportunity towards stakeholders. And we also realized that without a strong stakeholder cooperation in China, we are not able to achieve our goals, which is to enhance indirect connectivity and to welcome new non-stop flights. Welcoming a new non-stop flight is not easy. Basically, last year we welcomed Shanghai Airlines from Shanghai. We were very proud of this achievement. But to be honest, we started the discussion with them in 2015, which is now seen as a golden age of aviation between China and Europe. It was very nice to listen to the opinion of other panelists. I also believe that safety and hygiene, they are important. My colleague Nicolette in the afternoon session will tell more about how Budapest Airport did the homework to be prepared for Chinese tourists. But I must be the devil's advocate a bit, because price is also important in the recovery process. Do not forget that the pandemic has a very strong economic impact, which is true for all customers around the world, because it's a global economic recession what we are facing. We have to keep in mind that airline business is a capital intense and narrow margin activity. So as I mentioned in the ebook, long haul operation is very pricey. You need a lot of financial cushion. And at the beginning of the spring, we projected that, well, state-owned Chinese carriers have strong financial cushion and should return June, July latest. Keeping in mind that June is the busiest month and many airlines, Chinese carriers, time the launch of the service to June. That was the case in Shanghai Airlines last year. And now we missed that timeline, and due to the fact that it's a narrow margin business to operate long haul flights, we also have scenarios not to welcome Chinese carriers in the next 2 to 3 months or even before winter, because winter time, everyone loses money in winter. There's not big demand. So scenarios should be prepared and should be updated on a regular basis. What would fuel the recovery? As I learned this week, some big OTAs in China, let's say Ctrip, still prefers to promote domestic tours instead of international tours. So they are essential to have Chinese customers again in Europe. And also it's important to highlight that the current lack of air passengers is not demand driven. So it's because of regulation, and our outstanding growth pre-pandemic, it's simply cannot evaporate in a couple of months, what has been built in the last years. So because of those factors, we have high hope that the recovery is achievable, but not in the short term. And as recently IATA claimed, they delayed the full recovery by 1 year to 2024. So there are a lot of questions and a lot of risks ahead, excuse me. But an airline should also lead the discussion to discover the problems in the market. So we must be aware of the passenger profile of those air passengers between China and Hungary. Otherwise, you don't know your market and you cannot pitch for the return of these direct flights. So We did our homework in the last years, gaining tons of data about the aviation traffic. And now we should focus more to collect data, to communicate data, and to spread information among stakeholders, how much it counts to have a non-stop route. And just one last comment, we had the chance to collect very impressive historic data before the pandemic. Shanghai Airlines in 7 months of operation increased the air traffic between Budapest and Shanghai by 50%. 50% in a market which was already mature and well served by connecting airports in the Middle East or in Europe. So this 50% stimulation of the market truly justifies why there should be more freedom in air traffic between the European Union and China.
Okay, well, thanks, Matej. Very, very interesting to listen to you. And I think, yes, as you mentioned, this is not only about economics, it's also about politics a lot. And so this is, we can only hope that with all the geopolitical things going on, that there will be, for instance, for Europe, an interest of the Chinese side to strengthen relations, which might then change. And we have seen this before, that policies can also be changed rather quickly. And so hopefully we're not talking about 2024 before we see that. That will be telling big trouble ahead for many of us. So so I think we can have a short Q&A session before then we move on to the presentation of Rebecca about mobile payments. So one question I saw, and anybody of you can answer that, is that, so we talk about providing sanitation and hygiene to the tourists, but we all have been seeing pictures not of Chinese tourists but of other tourists themselves not taking much care about these regulations. Some in Spain, and of course, if you look at all the pictures from Florida or from America, you think these guys are really crazy. What are they doing? So what is the expectation once the Chinese tourists start traveling again? And there are some countries open for Chinese tourists, like the Maldives opened on the 15th of July, and they have a policy. I was told that they bring like chartered flight directly from one tour operator, one group directly to Malay. And of course, the Maldives normally have one atoll, is one resort, so it's very easy to have this isolated. So will the Chinese tourists, once they start to travel again in bigger groups, will they themselves keep to the rules and regulations, or will we have the problem that they will themselves will create danger? Xu, I think you raised your hand, please.
Thank you, Wolfgang. I will just throw the light a little bit, but I'm sure Roger will have a better say in this. It's not the question whether the Chinese or the Asian tourists in general will stick to the rules or disciplined. Probably it's the other way around, because the Asians, in philosophical way, we have been very used to collective thinking rather than individual philosophy. So the question is on the receiving side. And therefore, I think any restart has to be gradual, and any restart will have to be progressive rather than aggressive. By that, what I mean is that a linear approach will be much better than a multi-itinerary type of approach. Because if you look at what Chinese are doing now for the business market, what they are doing is to create the green channel, the special channel, or the travel bubble, as the Western world is calling it. It's only based on these kind of bilateral negotiations, point-to-point, linear approach that we can really start our progressive restart of the Chinese market. This is my personal opinion. I don't know whether Roger would agree. You hear a lot of this so-called revenge spending, that you have been stuck in at home, your pent-up desire for spending is very high, but that has to come at a much later stage, before the destinations put clear-cut procedures in terms of hygiene concerns, and only with that gradually linear approach. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Roger, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I want to just add several points. One thing is about the rule. How do we define this rule? If it's a rule about taking masks, about keep social distance, etc., I think the Asian people or the Chinese people, they have already taken the best example in the world. You can see, okay, comparing to in the United States or in other Western countries. So I think if we're talking about that kind of rules, I'm confident that we will follow the rules. But in another way, if we're talking about some other rules that are created or made by the local countries or destination that Chinese people, they don't really know about it, then it comes to a question is about whether we really educate or inform the tourists or Chinese tourists and about how to follow the rules. For example, the rules in a restaurant, in the Western style restaurants, they have the certain rules. This kind of rules, do we really know about it, or do we really educated about that? So this kind of rules are different. Or we cannot say only rules, but also customs, in local customs. So this is really different. Two questions, I think. Thank you.
Yes. No, certainly. I have heard from many Chinese friends that they say, well, that they think it's dangerous to come here because look, these guys don't even wear masks. So this is certainly the other way around, that they are. We are the monsters, so not wearing masks. But for the second part, of course, this is something also I think I briefly mentioned in my presentation, and we talk about this in the book, that you can also use a restaurant as a way of teaching etiquette and saying, well, you have a 10 minutes free training, so how to eat a lobster, because yeah, this is something. I fully agree. This is simply assumed that you know which glass is for red wine and which glass is for white wine. Well, of course you don't know if as nobody is teaching this to you, and you don't grow up in a society where this is a common way to do it. Yes, and so therefore it is also, I think, for I would be to answer the question of our participant, I would be more afraid of the Germans than of the Chinese, actually, in that respect, for sure. There has been one more question, and then I think we will have the next presentation, which was so which kind of accommodation will the Chinese tourists prefer more in the future? Because there has been this debate. Some people have been saying they want to go to big hotels because they trust that a big hotel chain can invest enough money and have strict written protocols. And we all know that every hotel group has books with what to do about it. And John talked about this. So I rather go to a big hotel chain because they have this strict policies, compared to other people saying, no, now they all will use Airbnb, they all will use holiday flats, because in a holiday flat, you have yourself, it's possible for yourself to decide how much cleaning and how much sanitation, how much spraying and washing you're doing. So you don't have to rely on anybody else. You don't have to rely on a underpaid Bulgarian cleaning woman who is maybe not really happy with, not well paid, and is not doing a very thorough job. So if you have a holiday flat, you can be sure that you do all this stuff in a proper way yourself. So what do you think is which side of the argument you would take, that it's rather people look for smaller places now and for short-term rental, or they go to the safety of clear management methods? Who wants to start? Roger, you want to start?
Okay, for the hotel bookings, actually, that is true what you said about the big hotel chains. Even in China today, for the domestic travel, we can see that more people believe that the big chain have the best protocols in their hotels to keep the customers, the visitors safe, and with a better hygiene and safety situation. So that is true. And I think in the post-virus situation, at least in the short term, it will still be true even for outbound market when people go abroad in overseas destinations, because they believe the big chains have the investment in doing that, and they care, and because most of the big chains, they are global hotel groups, for example, they have basically the same protocols and the same measures to help people. So in China, actually, those Western brands, they learn a lot from the China markets. Even for our villages, our European villages learn a lot from our two China villages about how to keep people feel safe and how to keep the precautions applied on sites. So this is, I think, the advantage for those big chains. And I think for Chinese people, this will be the trend after the outbound recovers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, this is more from the accommodation sector to look at the market. But if I may, to look at it more strategically, looking into the future post-virus, I think it is a good opportunity not only for the Chinese market, but for major source market, but particularly for the Chinese market, to have a shift, the shift going from the typical sightseeing, bling bling camera taking type or shopping type to more slow-paced, leisure-paced tourism. And this is where the opportunity lies within the European destinations, because a whole range of luxury products, the beach tourism, the sports-related tourism, the soft venture, and even rural tourism products, none of these are systematically been introduced to the Chinese market yet. It is always city hopping, it's always sightseeing, it's always museum visiting, but other products that have been there for decades for the European tourists, you have a good chance to introduce now. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with that. So Matej, so we don't want to leave you out. So do we have any information from Budapest or from Hungary? So how the demand, has there been more people interested in Airbnb or short rental compared than before?
Well, thank you, Wolfgang. Certainly, it's not field of my expertise, but we were involved in a recent study done by the tourism agency of Hungary to assess the market effect of Airbnb. And certainly, Airbnb has an influence on the local residents by pushing up rental fees and prices of the flats. And now the pandemic, I think, and it's true in general, maybe gave a moment to all the stakeholders to assess market trends in the last years, because when you're busy and things happening, you don't have time to really think of the right way of things should be going. So now it's under review. There will be some changes, but in Budapest, we had the problem with hotel capacity. So the air market and tourism market grew, basically the growth outpaced the hotel supply. So it was a good interim solution to have Airbnb, because otherwise Budapest would not have been able to welcome so many tourists in the last years. But now, I would not be in the position of a hotel developer now in Budapest, because all the projects have just been finished this year or last year. And now it will be a challenge for them to fill those rooms, but we are also working with airlines to bring customers to Budapest.
Okay, thank you for that. So with that, I would say, also looking at the time, so we are 15 minutes behind, but that's still okay. So that we finished the first panel. And again, thanks to all the participants. And I see in the chat that all your presentations and all your insights have been praised by many of the participants as being very helpful and insightful. So now we move on to and maybe let me say also, yeah, if you have more questions, of course you are still we are happy if you write them down in the question and answer section, and we will try some of them. If you leave your email address, we will try even to answer some of them after the seminar is over. So saying that, so what we still have to come is a presentation by Rebecca Baer from Planet, talking about the very important topic of payments and value-added tax refunding and the new development there. And directly after that, we will have the second panel. And I welcome Ghazi, who just turned up, first time in video. Hi, Ghazi. So we are all here. And so don't go away. There will be a very interesting second panel following, where we will look from the supply side. So what is on our end as a host? How are we preparing for the new developments? And don't forget, also at the end, we have a lucky draw for 3 copies of the book. So therefore, it's over to you, Rebecca. Please tell us all about the latest on payment and cashless payment.
Hello, Wolfgang, and hello to our amazing audience today. Thank you so much for having me here and for giving me the chance to present a bit on the topic of mobile and digital payments. It has been very, very interesting to listen to all speakers before, and one topic which was commonly mentioned here was that China, the world and China is getting more and more digital. And what I will go through with you today is also, I think, quite interesting for answering or a part of answering the next question coming up when looking at the supply side. So what can the supply side do to prepare for the post-virus customers from China? And yes, so as already said, I hope, can you all see my screen? Just double checking if you can see my presentation. I see Anders nodding, so great. So I think you can. Wonderful.
Great.
Perfect. Okay. So, as we already mentioned, the world is globally getting more and more digital and more mobile, and China is by far leading the way when it comes to this. And we have seen a big rise of mobile wallets throughout the last years. Also, China leading the way here. There are expectations that by end of 2020, more than 90% of China's population will use their phone to pay, which is of course a huge number. Then there's another topic we have already talked about before. I remember Roger giving some really nice insights here and talking about experiences, what is expected in terms of experiences, and the expectations are definitely rising of retail experiences, of experiences abroad. And I just recently read very interesting that post COVID-19, more than 60% of Chinese consumers have higher expectations to retail experiences than they had before. So if we look at this, and you see here in 2019, already 86% of the Chinese population made at least one purchase with a mobile phone. That's amazing. You see, we have a lot of Asian countries here in the stats, and we find not a single European one. So this is definitely a movement coming very strongly coming from Asia, with China leading the way. So just let me move on to the next slide. What are we talking about when we are talking about Chinese mobile payment? I will keep this quite short because I think we have so many experts here on this call that I do not need to go very much into the details. Just quickly introduce, we have two major apps which Chinese use for mobile payment. This is on the one hand Alipay, the world's largest mobile payments platform. It's a product from Ant Financial, which is belongs to Alibaba, and Alipay is by now also really a lifestyle app with offering a huge marketing potential to merchants and businesses out there besides just the payment function. Then we have Wechat. I'd be very surprised if anyone on this call has not heard about Wechat before. So I will also keep this short. Wechat is a hybrid app with more than 1.2 billion active users, and it is a messenger and also offers mobile payment capabilities. And Wechat is becoming more and more popular also for mobile payments in China. Why am I talking to you about this today? Because I think everyone here on this call, we are all aligned, and we all have the same opinion. Tourism from China will be back for sure. And it is very important for all the businesses out there to be prepared. COVID-19 has dramatically fueled the demand for mobile payment. Why is that? We have already talked a lot about Chinese tourists expecting highest hygienic standards. Mobile payments are contactless. So this is not the tourists and not your staff needs to touch each other, and this is a very safe method of payments. And of course, it also matches the demand of experiences which Chinese tourists have. It is a common experience. It is common for them to use their preferred mobile payment methods in China, and so they also have this expectation when shopping at merchants abroad. Here you see that what are the benefits for you as a merchant, as a business, as a restaurant, as a hotel, when you offer mobile payments to your Chinese customers. This is a study conducted by Nielsen in 2019, and you see that the payment method has a direct impact on the purchasing habit of Chinese overseas tourists, even more than product quality. even though it is just 1%, it is 1% more important than the product quality or the price. And you see in the other step below, you see that 89% of Chinese tourists who were surveyed by Nielsen said that they would shop and spend more if they had, if mobile payments, Chinese mobile payments would be accepted from the merchant, from the restaurant, and so on. So what does this mean for you? You can increase your revenues, you can drive footfall, and you can increase your customer satisfaction. And of course, this means repeat purchases and a very good customer experience. What are we offering as Planet? So we are supporting merchants, and we are providing mobile payment solutions for merchants, and we can find a solution that fits the need of every one of you. And what we are providing on top, we are not only providing the payments acceptance, we are actually providing a full service China solutions. What does this mean? We can provide you the payments acceptance. We are also providing a Wechat cross-border e-commerce product, which gives merchants the possibility to do after sales with their Chinese customers, but also to right now, where the Chinese customer is not present, sell to them in a very easy solution without having to put up difficult cross-border e-commerce structures themselves. And what are we doing? We are also providing or equipping our partners with a valuable skill set to better serve their Chinese customers in the future. And we are doing this together with Coachy in terms of offering the China Tourism online training, which is a really fantastic tool for merchants to better understand and better cater to their Chinese customers. We are also providing the relevant market insights, so you understand your Chinese customers, you understand how their purchasing habits, and we then help you to create a tailored and your perfect marketing strategy around them. I'm a bit quick here, just a second. I want to show you very shortly in a nice video how a payment transaction with Alipay looks like. So just for everyone who might have not seen that before. And so let me share this very quick video with you at this point. So you see, this is the Android terminal a merchant can use. He just enters the amount of the sales and scans the Alipay QR code provided by the tourists. And in less than a minute, the purchase is done. No one needs to touch each other. No cards need to be displayed. No cash needs to be handled. So this is a very nice, safe, and quick transaction for all parties. So this was already it from my side. Just a very quick wrap up on this topic. Yeah, actually offering mobile payments is not an option, or should not be an option anymore for merchants, for restaurants, for hotels, but should be a standard, because expectations for digital payments are definitely or will definitely be higher post COVID-19 than they have in the past. And yes, and why should this also matter for you? It can increase your revenues directly. And I think this is something where we all would be really happy to have this again. So thank you so much.
Okay.
And of course, what I also wanted to mention, if you want to learn more about this topic, please feel free to contact me. Please feel free to talk to me within LinkedIn, and yeah, be happy to give you more information on that.
Rebecca, thank you very
Thanks.
much for that. And already I saw that in the Q&A, some people have asked if they can get the slides. And I think obviously you see the email address, Rebecca Bear at planetpaymentcorp.com. I'm sure you will be happy to share the slides.
Perfect, of course. And also please feel free to add me on LinkedIn as well, and just reach out if you should have further questions to this.
Okay, so and also certainly I think this is the insight of everybody, and that it's not a question should I have it or not, but this is something where the Chinese customers, and I think even now after the virus more than before, they would just go somewhere else if you don't accept Alipay, and so on. So with this. Let me quickly open up this file to show you, so that now we are at the panel number 2, which is the supply side, how to prepare for the post-virus customers from China, how to use the new paradigm for successful business. And we have 6 participants, David from EPIC Irish Immigration Museum, Nicolette from Budapest Airport, and already we have been told that she will talk other aspects than Mate did. Rebecca, you just met her, Ghazi from Landways in Tirana, Samantha from Manchester Airport, and Anders Christensen, the general manager of Albatross, based in Beijing since many years. So maybe David, if I can start with you.
Of course.
So, and all of you, please also briefly first then introduce yourself. But it's very interesting to see that Ireland is obviously a wonderful place, and you're based in Dublin, which is a wonderful city. But it is not, you not automatically pass by like you have in Germany, where we are based here. This is the center of Europe. So a lot of Chinese people visit us because they have to, because they're transiting, or for you said in the interview that so many other places are already overcrowded and or have been at least overcrowded until the end of last year. So for a place like Ireland, and for a museum of Irish immigration, how have you been going on in the past, and how do you plan to go on in the future to attract Chinese visitors, when you would think maybe Irish immigration, why do the Chinese care about Irish immigration? That's not their topic. So but I know that you're very successful, and you have been given prizes as the best museum in Europe and so on. And also, Ireland has been quite successful as a destination with the Chinese market. Even so, you need an extra visa, and there is the Northern Ireland, Republic Island things and so on, and the Brexit anxiety, what have you. So tell us a bit about yourself, and how did you do the magic, and how do you want to continue the magic?
Sure, Wolfgang. It's delighted to be joining you here today. So as Wolfgang mentioned there, I'm David Cleary. I'm from EPIC, the Irish Immigration Museum. We're located in the very centre of Dublin, in the heart of Dublin, Ireland's famous capital city. And at EPIC, what we do is we tell the story of Irish immigration. So we talk about the history and the culture of the island itself, and talk about the reasons why people would have left the island and they would have gone all over the world. So essentially, you straight away mentioned it there, Wolfgang, why would Chinese visitors be interested in Irish immigration? And the reasons are that Irish immigration has been caused by the history of the island. So we talk about the history of the island, we talk about the history of the people, and what people have experienced over hundreds and hundreds of years. And the story it comes down to people. We are a museum of people. We talk about Irish people and we talk about Irishness. And it's something that you mentioned at the very, very start of it. It was your KPI, your embeddedness, talking about kinship and connections. Essentially what we talk about at EPIC is those connections, and EPIC actually stands for something. It's not just a kind of a buzzword about how great we think we are or anything like that. EPIC stands for every person is connected. And that's what we show in the museum. We show that the connections that Irish people made all over the world, whether they did emigrate to China, to New Zealand, to the UK, to United States of America, to Canada or South America, they made connections in their new communities. So it's a story of migration, it's a story of people, it's a story of connections. So how we get that across to our Chinese visitors is very much reaching out to that kinship, that sense of emotion, that sense of being, that sense of self. Every country in the world has their own migration story. And I suppose particularly prevalent in today's society when we hear a lot about migration and immigration and different forms of it. So EPIC tells the story of that from an Irish perspective over hundreds and hundreds of years. So it's not just, I suppose, telling the story of these Irish people, but it's looking at, you know, what the socioeconomic factors in Ireland were for those hundreds of years to explain these stories, you know. And I suppose to answer your question about how would Ireland attract people coming from China, we're as an island nation, as you said, we're not in the center of the continent. You know, people really have to make their way to come to us. But we have a lot going for us in terms of our sustainability. Ireland is seen as a green nation already. So prior to this COVID pandemic, Ireland was always seen as being clean and being green. So it's something that we will particularly be focusing on for the coming years. That green message, that there are plenty of wide open spaces. We are quite a small island nation. So obviously we rely on air travel and people visiting by sea, but we are a relatively small population for the island itself. So there's lots of green, open, wide spaces. So particularly for the Chinese visitors, our feedback that we get from working with our colleagues in Tourism Ireland in the market, but also our colleagues in Wechat Ireland, our national tourist body here, is that the Chinese visitors are particularly attracted to the greenery, the scenery, the wide open spaces. And again, that's something that will aid us from the COVID pandemic. People will want to get out into, you know, the landscape. They may not want to visit the large, bustling, overcrowded city centres. And obviously Europe being such a busy location, and particularly the cities such as maybe Paris and Rome, they're known maybe for being tourist destinations in those high season to summer periods. And that's where we touch on that over tourism and overcrowding. The sense and the feeling that we are getting is people may not want to expose themselves to these sorts of bustling metropolises. So while EPIC is located in the centre of Dublin, in the capital city, Dublin is still a relatively small city. You know, within 15, 20 minutes, you're out in the mountains or out in the seaside. So it's quite a positive thing for people to still come to Dublin and to visit the rest of Ireland. Dublin obviously is the hub for the island. You mentioned that we've got 2 states here on the island. We have the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. And that has created some problems for just having a border on the island for this post-COVID time. You know, there are different rules either side of the border, so people can't travel as freely as they maybe would have under the Good Friday Agreement, obviously, just purely in terms of restrictions on how far people can travel. But purely in terms of the attracting the Chinese visitors for Ireland as a green destination, to be seen as safe, to be seen as welcoming, something that we have always hopefully been seen as, Ireland as a nation of people welcoming people with open arms. So hopefully that answers a little bit of your question about the overcrowding situation, Wolfgang. I think you're on mute, Wolfgang.
Sorry, I forgot that. Sorry.
Okay.
So thanks for that. And obviously, as I mentioned in my presentation at the beginning, so there has been clear survey results that the Chinese have been saying we want to go to smaller, less crowded, and also new places. So and I think Ireland will fit description very, very well. And also, yeah, I can say from my personal experience, really, it is so easy in Ireland to start to talk to people. You go to a pub and within 5 minutes you have 10 new friends, which is, try this in Germany, it's much harder. So going across the Irish Channel to the other side, we arrive at Samantha's place. Samantha, can you tell us how the and we've just talked about the two islands. What is more frightening you, Brexit or COVID-19?
Hi, thank you for having me. First off, I work for Manchester Airport Group, so we own Manchester Airport, Stansted and East Midlands, and collectively serve about 60 million passengers a year. I think both come with their challenges, and I also think the approach to both is probably, there are some similarities. I mean, we see air travel as being directly linked to the economy, and both rely heavily on each other. So, I mean, we work very closely with government and industry bodies to make sure that aviation is prioritised and seen as a strategic way that the country can keep its connections with the rest of the world, which is going to be important as we recover from COVID-19 and obviously as we go into Brexit. Obviously, air travel boosts tourism, but it also boosts trade, and it can form important partnerships, which we've seen at Manchester. We've developed quite a strong connection with China, particularly up in the northern region. But I think there's going to be three things that are going to be key. I think COVID-19, we need to see how it plays out, and it's going to be based on coordination, particularly between countries in terms of how different countries are managing their regulations and how they're controlling their borders, and working closely with these countries to come to sort of mutually beneficial agreements and air corridors, for example, in terms of the UK, are going to be key in terms of driving passengers. Similar for Brexit, we're going to need to keep these relationships strong and keep the dialogue open. I think as well, in terms of how we approach it, consistency is going to be a core feature as well, in terms of the methods we put in place and the regulations we have in place to welcome visitors to the UK. It needs to be the same for domestic travellers, for European travellers, and when travel opens again to our long haul travellers. And I believe that kind of crosses both Brexit and COVID-19 equally, in terms of keeping these coordination and links strong as we go into it. So I'd probably, in the immediate, COVID-19 has obviously impacted the travel industry in a way never seen before. So our key focus at the moment is on recovery and on driving our passengers and bringing visitors back to the regions, back to the UK. But I think longer term, how we manage these and how we work with our partners, we'll learn a lot of lessons, I think, going forward in terms of how we can all work together and manage the risks that come with these events. And particularly in aviation, we now have regulations that cover global, European, and our local government as well have regulations put in place, particularly for COVID-19, in terms of how we manage sort of health and safety within the airport environment and travel environment. So now we have those frameworks, then that will help us guide us as we go forwards, as we work to kind of bring ourselves out of this. And we can see the benefits that come with having these strong relationships. We've seen from the Manchester flight to Beijing, the impact it's had on the visitor economy, on students, on trade, on investment. So there are so many benefits to be had with having these direct links. So we will continue to push for more of these in the future, and we'll be working very closely with our airline partners to keep those routes open. Oh, Wolfgang, I think you're on mute.
It seems old age is setting in. Sorry. So yeah, we had the pleasure to work with Manchester in the past, and I think Manchester is also a good example for finding niche markets. So in the chat, we have one of our participants from the Chinese from Malaysia who lived a long time in Europe, and he also mentioned what has been said by Istvan at the very beginning. Europe is big, and there are many places less visited than they should be, and whereas we have over-tourism in some other places, and so there's something in China, just to take this example, which is called red tourism, Hungary. So visiting places connected to the history of communism and socialism, and so obviously Manchester is a place where Friedrich Engels has been living for a long time, and so we have been working with some partners on this, going to Wuppertal and to Trier, where Marx and Engels were born, and then go to London, where Marx grave is, and then of course going up to Manchester. And we talk about a niche market, and inside China domestically, every year this niche market has 1 billion trips. So it's not that much of a niche. Half of it is school classes going to the next revolutionary monument 10 kilometers away, but there is a lot of travel, and it's not only domestic. There's a lot of groups visiting now Russia and former Yugoslavia and so on, and this is beside all the other interesting and nice things in Manchester. So that is one way where you can put yourself on a map in a special, very special way. So this our friend from Malaysia is saying, Europeans don't underestimate what you have. So be more aware how other people will appreciate what we take for granted. And I think this is from all the things we have been discussing also in the first panel, that this idea, okay, be open-minded, take a step back, use the time to look afresh of your business and the opportunities. So maybe jumping over to China, Anders, it's already after 8 p.m. So I hope you had your dinner before. So thanks for joining us. So well, you said in the interview, and I was shocked to read this, that we will have to give people information material about safety measures and virus for the next 5 to 6 years. Wow, that's a long time. So can you please explain shortly, what are you doing? Which business you are in, and then say, well, you take a rather long-term view before it gets better.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Hi, Wolfgang. Yeah, it's 6 o'clock in Beijing, so it's still okay. I haven't had my dinner yet. I work for Albatross Group. We have had extensive business with China for many years. We have the Great Wall Marathon here in Beijing, and we also have cruise ships in Greenland and in Antarctica, and we are right now the largest B2B supplier of polar travel to these destinations, and out of China. We have about 2,000 Chinese who are going with us every year, and we've built a substantial business, which of course now is lagging a little bit. What I meant about us having to take a long view on this COVID is that I think it will be lingering for some time yet. And I also think that we have to work very much on the safety. I am in the cruise industry, and that is one of the industries that were hit very hard and are very, how to say, vulnerable to the COVID. Of course, we all are, but the cruise industry is especially pressured now. So the approach we've taken and we've been trying to work on is we are staying very close contact with our Chinese partners here, because I think the first ones who will know how outbound travel out of China will look like is the Chinese travel agencies, likely the Chinese state-owned travel agencies. We know that CNTA and Cultural Ministry will send out census to understand where is the market now. They'll also give, they'll try to collect information from the industry and to see where are we now and what are you looking at. And I think this will happen during the autumn. And when that happens, we would like to sit next to the Chinese travel agencies and understand what their needs are, and also to understand what they are being told by the government, because I'm sure we can see now the embassies, the Chinese embassies in each country are now setting up rules and systematic structures for how to get back into China for foreigners. China has been closed more or less off until now, and we see that structure slowly taking shape. And I'm sure the same thing will happen here. And as previously mentioned before, what we will see is a gradual opening up regionally. So we will see Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, Korea probably being some of the first testing grounds for it. This Safe to Save hub, which was actually created during the Olympics in 2008, where Beijing turned into a Safe to Save hub when I worked at that time here in Beijing. So I think that system will be implemented. It will have consequences for how we receive people in Europe. So I think before making too many plans, before setting too many things up, we have to wait and see what actually will happen here and what will be the first kind of flows that will go through to Thailand, to Vietnam, and to Hong Kong. And I'm sure these rules and regulations will be in place soon in the sometime in the autumn. I think a deadline now is about 1st of October when the airline should be sort of implemented, all given how the virus kind of moves around. And I think the reason why I said 5 years is that I think this will be around for a time, maybe even a decade, where we have to somehow prove that we have virus setups, all of us, outside of China and even in China. And it's going to be basically one more thing that we have to tick off on our list. We are in the travel expedition industry, which means we already have a very long checklist for us. It will be just one more point. We have distance parameters for penguins. You have to be a good 4 meters away from them. And we also have what we call IECO rules, because we travel in very sensitive areas. So for us, this is not a completely new thing. There are very specific rules traveling in the Arctic regarding litters and regarding how you interact with the locals. You don't pet local animals. They might be very savage and all of these. So for us, it will be just one more on the list. And from our experience, having Chinese tourists over the last 5 to 10 years, is that they are actually very good at following the rules and regulations, but it is on us to very precisely formulate what we want from them and what we expect from them when they are in the destination. And if you argue and you show videos, we have videos in Mandarin, and you interact with the clients when they are at the destination, they follow rules. We've not had issues. Of course, they get excited and then you basically in a nice, firm, friendly way say, wait, but that's not just a Chinese thing. That can be an American, European, Scandinavian thing too.
So you would agree, Roger, you before said basically the same, that if you give them clear rules so they know what they're supposed to follow, then they will, almost all of them will follow them.
Yeah, and what we also learned is that pre-travel information is not as good as destination on-site information. So we actually on the vessels and departure, we basically have information meetings, fairly long ones, where we go through all the information and we make sure that people are aware of what they're actually signing up for. And we repeat ourselves quite a lot. And also because there is a lot of information to take in when you're a tourist. And I think it will be more or less the same with the COVID. You'll have to repeat yourself a lot. You have to signage has to be very strong, especially on the vessel, both in Mandarin and in English, saying, please remember to wear masks, please remember to use hand sanitizers. And I think that will be around from now on. That is a thing that's not going to change.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. As a former tour guide and as a professor, I know it doesn't matter what you're sending, it matters what is received. So repetition is a good way.
And you lead by example.
So just maybe a brief answer. I don't want you to discuss politics, but from all the surveys, we see that a good part of the Chinese international travelers are saying, "Oh, I'm waiting for the opportunity to get out again and start again international travel." So, do you see that there is also a pressure from the people to say we want, when it becomes possible again, we want to get out, and that the government also has to take care of that?
Yes, of course. I think there is no doubt that Chinese people are waiting to go traveling again. I noticed a very funny trend at the office we have is that the girls, when we have a lunch break, they wipe out their phones and they go on TikTok, and then they actually follow Chinese people who live in Seoul, and they basically take them around the shopping malls on the TikTok Douyin things, and they actually sell clothes while they walk around. We've seen it in the shopping malls in the streets of Copenhagen too. And they basically pick up products that they then show, and then they walk around with them, show it out, and they can actually start laughing and yelling and saying, "I want to buy this," based on this TikTok Douyin thing that's going on now, and it's extremely popular. And so I think just that shows. We have another thing going for us in the travel industry is that I don't know if any of us actually noticed, but the largest cohort of Chinese people aged 55 to 56 will actually retire within the next 10 years. So we're looking at 300 million people who will likely retire very soon. So demographics are weighing our way too, and these are probably going to be some of the most affluent and people with the greatest purchase power in the history of China. So
and time
and they keep traveling
and more time.
Yes.
But now the rich 40-something-year-olds, they have money, but they don't have time. They're so busy working.
Yes,
so
yes.
That will be the first cohort of people with money and time.
We will see, likely the next 10 years will probably be the golden age of Chinese travel if we can get this weird virus out of the way.
Wow, this is a sentence. Okay, I will quote you on that.
Demographically, I don't know. But yeah, okay. And then of course, when you mention politics, I think European travel agents and the European Union should work on lobbying and how to clarify travel rules, clarify visa rules, and do dialogues here in China, because again, dialogue and constant reminders of issues that you face is extremely important, and especially in tourism, because we are also very sensitive to changes in visa policies or national sentiments. So in that way, Europe is positioned very well for the future, I hope, or should be. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's very interesting. So when I read the interview, which is in our book, I thought, wow, this is a rather pessimistic view, but now I see I have to read it again. So you were until now the most optimistic in today's seminar. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Let's go on to Nicolette. So coming back to Budapest, and we heard already from Mate something about how you have been going with this market. So please give us part 2 of the story.
Thank you for the question, Professor, and welcome to everyone in the webinar. I am Nicolas from Budapest Airport, and in the past 1 year, I've been working on really interesting Chinese-focused product development projects that would create a better and more quality connection to our passengers. So what supports this is that we have luckily a very forward-looking and progressive thinking management who set out the initiative to turn Budapest Airport into a Chinese-friendly airport. And then, as my colleague Mate have introduced, following years of hard work and discussions with airline partners in China, over the past 1 year, there have been new flight openings in several destinations to bigger Chinese cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Chengdu, Xi'an, Chongqing. And then the COVID came, but before that, we were already set out on a road to become, and I think we are quite there, to become a Chinese-friendly airport. And I'm sharing the view of Anders and Rebecca and being optimistic about it, that Chinese travelers are going to return. And once we are out of this situation, regardless how long it takes, in the end, in the long run, they will return. And so our goals are not changed in this respect, and we are preparing ourselves to receive the Chinese passengers. So what we have done here is slowly building it up with just guiding, shopping guides and tax refund guides in Chinese, and then adding more and more signages over all the airports. And then this year we completed an overall wayfinding signage exchange, and now everything in the terminal from the very entrance all the way to the gates is displayed in Hungarian, English, and Chinese. And this is a very important cornerstone in what I also believe and agree with the professor, that trust is the new currency in this new situation. And giving the message that we are here and we are guiding you in your own language, and it's not digital, an application that could be deleted and removed. It's stable signage, which might go against being digital, but still has the message that this is something stable, this is going to stay, and this is going to be here for all the Chinese passengers regarding what applications they use. This was one of the latest development that we had in this respect. And also, tying back to Rebecca's presentation, we introduced Chinese payment methods over the course of the past year, which has definitely proved the prior expectations. This is what Chinese passengers and travelers prefer to use when they are here. So the sales and revenues in those stores who took the risk and introduced it, well, actually there was no risk. It was quite sure that this would happen, and it's proven right. They show a lot more interest and willingness to shop in stores and engage in the airport ecosystem if they have their own methods to pay, which is Alipay, Wechat Pay in some of the stores, that's not overall yet, and also Union Pay. If they, for larger transactions, they might still use cards and not applications. Then going along this, these were the hard aspects of what we were trying to introduce in the Chinese-friendly initiatives. And we got to the soft aspect of it when you sort of need the people to connect to them as well. So we set out cultural awareness workshops, partially for our retail partners in the airport, those who were not on board yet with the Chinese payment methods and maybe needed some encouragement and understanding why is it necessary and why it would be for their interest, and also for our own staff working in the terminal. So for the retail partners, we had long discussions about what Chinese preferences are as of product placement in the store, opening conversations, basic expressions, what Chinese people would want to take as snacks on the flights, because the retailers just didn't understand that passengers, Chinese passengers come in, don't buy anything, leave, and that had a bad impression on the Chinese passenger, bad feelings in our own partners. So it was not successful at all. And then coming from this, they were really eager and thirsty to understand more about the Chinese passengers. So working on mutual understanding has been really well received at Budapest Airport. On our own staff training, those are mainly the information terminal assistants who are working in the check-in halls, and they are actually the first people who meet the passengers when they enter the terminal. And we went through really typical situations that they might bump into with the Chinese passengers, groups standing here and there, looking for something with a paper. Is it a stamp? Is it tax refund? Is it passport, the boarding pass? So we learned very basic expressions and analyzed the situations that might bump into, and this made the check-in procedures, all procedures in the check-in hall much smoother. So this is where we are. And then now we are at the point when we still need to put effort into the social media communication, because this was all on site. And then the so-called zero moment of truth, when they're trying to research where they are going to, what possibilities they have, we still need to answer that. But as an airport, of course, one of the greatest challenges for us is that nobody actually travels for the airport experience itself, but for the destination of their choice. So what they're going to Google, Weibo, check on Baidu is not going to be us, first of all. So we somehow need to connect into the wider travel ecosystem with the right partners in Budapest and through the right channels of social media. This is, of course, going to be Wechat and the Wechat mini programs that make it even more interactive. So we are in the procedure now of finding the right partners and messages for this. And then the right timing, because right now with no Chinese passengers, this is not when we could launch this. But we are on the preparations, and when the time is right, this is what we are going to take as the first next step. And I think what is essential in this really changing world with immediately changing preferences is to actually ask the Chinese passengers what they thought of their experience at the airport in Budapest. So we are going to put more emphasis on data collection, qualitative data collection from the passengers who are at the airport, leaving and arriving, with possibly simple QR codes, scanning questionnaires or personal questionnaires, to see that the efforts that we've taken are coming out the way we meant them to be, and what the next step should be from their perspective. Because we're discussing many options with our partners in Budapest and among ourselves and partners, but we haven't really involved the passengers in qualitative answers. So that would be a very important part in defining what and how we should start out when the time is here again for our Chinese passengers. Okay,
Nicola, thanks a lot. Also, very, very interesting. And also, yes, I think I fully agree, especially also with your last point that we have the industry as a whole has not really tried hard enough to talk to the customers. And my experience has been over years that people would maybe also be criticizing Chinese customers for doing something they don't like them to do. But whenever we ask, okay, did you ever ask them why are they doing this? I mean, they don't destroy your water cookers because they're mean people. They just destroy it because there's no bowl where they can put their noodles into. They put the noodles into the water cooker. So if you give them a bowl, they will stop doing that. So, that's a simple example, but it seemed to me that very often we have been talking about the Chinese passengers, but not without them. And so this is certainly a good idea. And maybe just picking on the one point you said before, Rebecca, the question was the timing. So as far as I'm aware, Planet has just started a campaign connected with the Chinese market now. So even so, of course, also in the number of Chinese visitors is limited. But in Europe, if you are already in Europe, and there are of course a lot of Chinese students and expats already within Schengen area, they can travel now again. So so you have some customers, but of course it's not the same as before. So can you explain to us why Planet has decided that now is the right time to help to your clients, your partners, to learn more about the Chinese market?
Of course, Wolfgang. So hello again. Happy to be here and to listen to all those great conversations. Really enjoyed listening to you, Nicolette. I think that are really, really great and efficient measures that you are taking at Budapest Airport. To answer your question, Wolfgang, or I think it was actually multiple questions at once. I will answer the first. Yes, what we are doing at the moment, or I mean, at Planet, we are all about assisting our merchant partners and our partners in the industry to better serve to international customers. So in the past, we used to have a very strong focus on non-EU tourists. That's not valid anymore for the future, because I mean, the international customer shopping at the merchant at the moment, or maybe eating in a restaurant at the moment, does not necessarily need to be a tourist. It can be one of the a member of the huge Chinese community, for example, living in Europe, which consists of more than 1 million Chinese living and staying in Europe. So of course, now while for at the moment where the industry is missing out on Chinese tourists, we help our merchants also to see that there is potential there right now, and we help them to reach out to these regional Chinese, we call them, and we also help them to cater to these regional Chinese, for example, in terms of providing mobile payments, because also this target group is heavily using their preferred payment methods. So for example, we are just introducing mobile payments, our mobile payment methods at Selfridges, and we are seeing transactions right now, which are not transactions done by Chinese tourists, but transactions done by Chinese residents living in London. So there is a market there, and we feel as a provider of international payments, as a provider of international services, it is our responsibility to educate our partners about that. You can do revenues if you reach out to this community. But the second thing is, and I think that was also something you are mentioning, Wolfgang, is we feel it is our responsibility to share with our partners strategies like what Nicolette talked about, not just a punctual thing to do in order to welcome back tourists, but to share with them strategies to analyze their business and see what can they do to be best prepared for the future needs and the future demands of the Chinese tourists when they will be back. And we all don't know, none of us has this glass bubble where we can look in, the crystal bubble. I'm not sure what it's called in English, but crystal ball. Thank you. where we can look in, and so we can't tell when this will be, but better take the time now and they will be back, and use the time now to be best prepared. And what do I mean with this? I mean, I work in this industry for 7 years now, and I've seen a lot of things, and I've seen a lot of merchants, for example, which have just taken the Chinese for granted throughout all these years. They have taken them for granted. They haven't even thought about maybe training their staff, maybe to better understand the culture, but also maybe teaching them a few phrases they can use. They haven't even thought about that. They have never thought about how can they enhance the retail experience for those Chinese tourists. And I mean, if some merchants, the biggest thing they might have done was like implementing a window sticker, or maybe decorating a window display for Chinese New Year. And we're hoping that they will have so much more Chinese customers by doing so. And of course they did not, because it is not a punctual thing to do. It is, we recommend, or I recommend to all our listeners out there, to all those businesses out there, if you want to prepare for those tourists coming back, think about a China strategy for your business. It really needs to be a kind of strategy. How can I understand and engage better with these customers? How can I reach out to them? How can I implement really effective marketing activities in store, but also, of course, in China? And how can I, and I think this is one of the really most important topics, use the time right now. And I think all of you are willing to do so. That's why you are on this call. So you've already done the next step. Use the time now to engage with these customers, to better understand them, to better understand their demands, to better understand the culture. Train your teams accordingly, and then you can be on the, and also maybe you should also look at your product fit. So do I have the right products available? Do I have the right services available to actually meet those demands? And then I'm very sure you'll be on the winning side. And now I have, what I hear quite often is, I do not have the capacity in my business to do so. I do not have the resources. I do not have Chinese speaking staff. I do not have an own marketing department, and so on. I very often get to hear this. You do not have to. You just need to know who to talk to. And there are so many experts on the field. We have so many of them on the call today. You can reach out to Cotree if you want to learn more about how to learn more about Chinese customers, how to reach them. You can reach out to us at Planet. You can reach out to all those wonderful people out there, and they will help you to really get your business ready. So.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. And yes, the good news is for those people you just talked about is that if you invest a little bit of money and effort to have more satisfied customers, this will save you a lot of social media marketing money, where you are one voice out of 10,000 voices, and it's very hard to be heard in this sound multiple sounds. Whereas if you, as you said, think a bit more about, okay, how can I enhance the experience of my customer so that that customer will tell their friends back home, this is a nice place, these are nice people, this is so that this will probably be more effective and costing you much less money, to be sure.
Totally agree.
So we come to our last speaker, Gazi, and so sorry to keep you for but it's certainly last not least. And you have been talking a lot about something we are talking a lot about as well, which is kinship economy. So, and I know that this is something in your company you're not only talking about, you're also living it. And so therefore, the last word is to you actually today. So tell us a bit about yourself, your company, and also how you see that for the Chinese market, this idea of a kinship economy can help you to be successful.
Well, thank you for inviting me. And I think it's time very well spent because it's in the beautiful beaches of Albania. So looking out into the sea, I'm doing this conversation. And thank you very much for the invitation and for the interesting insights I got from having a look at the ebook which you have produced. I think that this discussion is very timely because once the COVID crisis started, I think we were all in a very survival mode, not really understanding what's happening. And I think that the first thing we did as a company is we took our time to really understand what's really happening and spend a lot of quality time with our partners in Asia and in China. And speaking of that, just want to say a few words about the company. We're an international based company, tour operator. So we are and I think your placement of my talk at the end, I think makes sense because in a way we connect all the dots. So we as a travel operator and tour operator produce the whole package where we connect to the hotel, the bus company, the products that we sell to our partners. And we serve to 12 markets in Asia, where China has clearly become the most important ones in terms of volume. And we saw the very good numbers in the last 3 years. So what we did as a company is we got in what we could master. And what you could master was something which we could talk to our partners, communicate to them, and really understand what are the pain points. And the pain points were not clear at that time. So we evolved with time together with the pain points. And based on this, we decided to get engaged in something which was very, very interesting. And that is on dealing, first of all, to address their needs, which is their existential needs. So we as a company felt that there was a need for masks at that time, and there was a need for medical equipment, which we could gather in Europe at that time because pandemic had not arrived in Europe. So I can tell you that we were the best client of DHL to send packages to China. And this was something which we really felt is something which we felt the partners would be doing for us as well. So we send them over as donations. And this was a very appreciative act by the partners. And then by being in touch with them, we just saw that when this period was over, it was time to go back to work. So we tailor-made programs for them based on a destination letter, based on safety and hygiene, like which other countries which could be, let's say, the safest country to travel when things get better. So after we started sending them pre-presentations, we got feedback from them and we worked. And then the first ones were in English, but then the later ones were done all in Mandarin, Chinese. And I think they were very well developed. They were very well received. And with each presentation, we got feedback, which was very constructive. And we tried to introduce this constructive feedback in the next presentations. So now the presentations we have now is a portfolio which attracts all the regions of the Balkans, where it's our mainstay and our main stage, but even Eastern and Central Europe. And we played what makes us stand out, as a company, and what makes this region, the Balkans, stand out. And one thing which we really realized was that the history, the past history is a lot of in common, but at the same time, we played on the element of hospitality, which the region is known for. And especially now, all the guests, including the Chinese guests, what they want is safety, is hygiene. And they even asked whether we had in our company a manager of hygiene and distancing rules. This is a very good question, which made me think. And as an entrepreneur, my answer is not why, but my answer is why not. So we thought about it, and Wolfgang, in my next organizational organogram, if you see a marketing manager or hygiene manager, you know where the source came from. So this is something which we did, and I think it was very, very well received. But what was most important, I think this was a moment when the lemon was turned into a lemonade, where we really bonded much better with our partners, because before it was like go, go, go all the time. We all were very busy. But now that we are talking with them, they have more time in their hands. They're more willing to talk. They're more willing to talk about products that we can co-develop. And I want to use the term co-develop, because it's not only developed by us, it's we discuss, we have open discussions, then we get there so that we are ready now. We have a portfolio of new products we didn't have before. So I believe that we are ready and we're waiting for the new challenge. And one more element which I need to add to the discussion is that I'm very, very much impressed with the attitude, the positive attitude, the willingness and the commitment of the hotel suppliers, restaurant suppliers, who are ready to do anything possible for the Chinese market. But something which I have to commend all the suppliers was that nobody charged us anything for cancellation fees, which we would pass over to our partners in China when things started. Everybody felt in the same shoes, and this is something which I believe the Chinese partners much appreciate. Over to you, Wolfgang.
Yes, thank you, Gazi. Well, this is very, very interesting, and of course, this is something which I think you did very well, and what has been commented a lot in China upon that companies who stayed with us in China when we were in trouble, so that these are our true friends, and this is something which is a good thing to do everywhere, but I think in China even more so. And so to say that this is not just your business partners, but these are people who are your partners, and that and this is something what we are also saying nowadays. Even if you did not do this in January and February, you can still do this today. You can still just communicating with your business partners in China, just saying, how are you? So what's going on? How is there any way we can help you? Do you need, for instance, as you just said, do you need information? Can we give you information about what's the current situation here? So this is something which will be helpful, but also be seen as a gesture of taking these people serious and showing that this is an important thing for you. This is why we talked about airports a lot today, of course. And I think that's another example. Chinese travelers don't need a sign in Chinese saying departure in Chinese. If you have the pictogram of the aircraft flying up, and you see where the people go for check-in, so obviously this is departure. So anybody in China who has enough money to buy an air ticket is clever enough to find the departure without it's written there in Chinese. But it's a very good idea to have this sign there.
I would adjust a little bit because they do get lost in the airport very often.
Yes, but not only Chinese, but so this is also a very good idea to do this, because this is showing respect to the customers and showing, yes, we acknowledge that you are among our non-English, non-local language speaking customers, one of the important or the most important other group, and we acknowledge this. Never mind if it is necessary or not. It's helping, of course, better than not, but it's also the bigger part of it is certainly that they say, hey, look, they also wrote this there in Chinese, so they want to help us so we don't get lost. And this is something in many ways, I think now Gazi has given us a very good example. And this is what is this idea of this kinship economy, that you try to make people feel belonging, and thereby, and this is maybe last thing to say from my side. In China, you have a society which is very much inside and outside. So if your friends, your family, you can ask from them much more than you can ask from friends and family here. So if you're inside the group, people do everything for you. But if you're outside, if they don't know you, they do much less for you. So they will not care for somebody they never met, they don't know, who they don't have any shared friends with. So if you want to avoid that, all the stories of Chinese people being careless or cheating in business or so, this is, I think, the key answer is get inside their network and not stay outside the network, and then the behavior is changing completely. So with this, thank you very, very much for all the panelists of the second panel. I think that has been very useful. And before we give over to our host for the last words, we still have the lucky draw. And as we are running behind, I had my colleagues doing the lucky draw out of the more than 2,500 people who registered. So we're very proud about that. And I can tell you that, where is that here? So the three names of the winners of the book are Johan Cavallini from Villa San Michel is the first one, and the second one is Beverlyn Imali Akivaga from the African Hartebeest Safari Limited. So obviously a colleague from Africa. And the third one is Jane Lee from the company Heaven's Portfolio, which, if I'm not mistaken, is based in Hong Kong, actually, I think. So we have, I have to thank our co-worker who did this. So we have I think a European gentleman and an African lady and a Chinese lady. So couldn't be better. So the three of the, I don't know if they participate at the moment, very good. If not, we will inform them. And so of course, for everybody else, I'm afraid you have to think about buying a book. With this, again, I think I'm really happy, and I see in the chat that also our participants have been quite happy with the content. I think it was full of information, and when we put this together, the idea was to have different views, different perspectives, and well, if I may say so myself, I think we, in a way, achieved this, make this approach into a fruitful way of doing things. With this, I hand over to Jan, who will see us out. And of course, from my side, for all of you, stay healthy, number one. Stay alive as a business, hoping that the better times are soon to come, and prepare for the Chinese market. Now you have maybe some time for that, and it will be paying back in the future. Jan, over to you, and thank you very much again.
Thank you, Wolfgang, and thank you very much to the speakers, to the participants. It's been very interesting, it's been entertaining, and least of all, not thank you to Wolfgang for putting this together. It has confirmed that our decision, in my view, it has confirmed that our decision to make a trade show on China in 5 to 6 weeks is correct. There has been raised a lot of interesting points which we want to dig into. Pick up a few. Technology. China is light year ahead of what we're doing in Europe. That will be interesting to dig into. Anders told us about 300 million Chinese getting into retirement. Very interesting point. What will that mean to economic growth if 20% of the population is going into retirement, even more of the workforce? A lot of interesting things to discuss in a trade show. This show will start September 14th, and it will be 5 days. We will have keynote speakers for 3 days. We are putting in the program together these days. Day one will be on, we call it Understanding China, or Building Bridges. We have heard Nicolette talk about building bridges today. We will dig a bit more into that, about China history, China economics. There's a lot of interesting subjects, and also about Chinese technology. Day 2 will be about outbound, and day 3 will be on inbound and domestic. Domestic tourism is changing a lot in China these days. We will all these 3 days plus 2 more days have virtual where exhibitors can exhibit their presentation, their videos, and there will be visitors, and you can connect through our various technologies and have one-to-one meetings. As I said in the introduction when we started this show, it is not only a BUZZ event. We are doing this with the GITF together, which will make sure that we have Chinese expertise and access to Chinese visitors and exhibitors. So with these words, enough of talk for today, and have a good time, and enjoy to see you in a few weeks again. Thank you.
Okay, Tadien.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.